Okay, let's dive right into this. We often tend to think that once an enterprise has set up its firewalls, its web application firewalls, its intrusion detection systems, well, everything's safe and secure, right? The perimeter is locked tight. But here is the genuinely terrifying premise we're exploring in today's explainer. What if the hacker is already inside your network? I mean, really picture this scenario. An attacker has successfully bypassed the perimeter and has been lurking in your computers, just perfectly hidden for days. And the scariest part? You wouldn't even know it.
So what happens now? Think about all those traditional outward-facing defenses we rely on. You've got your firewalls blocking bad traffic, your WAF protecting the websites, your IDS and IPS monitoring the network flow, but they're all designed to keep the enemy out. Once those perimeter defenses have fallen, the whole battleground shifts entirely. It moves directly to the endpoints. We're talking about the actual computers, servers, and laptops that your employees use every single day. The reality of modern cyber warfare is that the attack almost always lands on the endpoint. So when those outer walls inevitably fall, you absolutely need something operating from within. You need an active detective on the inside.
And honestly, that brings us to the hero of our story, EDR, or Endpoint Detection and Response. This isn't just another piece of software. EDR is the enterprise's final absolute last line of host-level defense. It doesn't just sit there monitoring the network pipeline. No, it monitors every single host machine itself. We're talking Windows laptops, Linux servers, Macs, virtual machines, Kubernetes nodes, cloud servers, the whole shebang. So instead of acting like this static, dumb wall just trying to block things from coming in, EDR acts as a highly active undercover detective continuously investigating what is happening right now on that specific machine. Now, there's a massive distinction here between the old way of doing things and the new way. A lot of people just assume EDR is, kind of like an advanced antivirus, but the difference is actually staggering. Think of traditional antivirus as a bouncer at a nightclub, just checking IDs. It looks at file signatures, hashes, known malware patterns. If the ID is on the blacklist, boom, it blocks the file. But what if the attacker doesn't use a known bad file? Well, the bouncer's completely useless. EDR, on the other hand, acts like that undercover detective. It doesn't just check the ID at the door, it actively monitors behavior chains. It's constantly asking, wait, what is this program actually doing inside the club? It's all about focusing on actions, not just static files. So why is that behavioral focus absolutely crucial? Well, it's because hackers have developed a brilliantly devious countermove, living off the land, or LOTL attacks. In a living off the land attack, there literally is no virus file for that bouncer to catch. There's nothing to scan. Instead, hackers use perfectly legal, built-in system-native tools, things you use every day like PowerShell, Windows Management Instrumentation, PSX, SSH, or Python. And because these tools are entirely legitimate, traditional antivirus just looks right past them. It is completely blind to the threat. The hacker is literally using the system's own trusted tools against it, which, let's be real, is both fascinating and incredibly dangerous.
So how in the world does our detective catch what the bouncer misses? Well, by performing attack behavior mapping. It connects the dots, and this brilliantly illustrates the process. The EDR sees a command prompt launch, right? Which then triggers a PowerShell script running encrypted base64 code, which then quietly reaches out to a suspicious domain. Now, individually, maybe none of these files are technically viruses, but when you put them together, this specific behavior chain screams malicious intent. EDR maps these exact behaviors to known frameworks, like the MITRE ATT&CK matrix. It's identifying tactics like credential dumping, lateral movement, or privilege escalation. Basically, it's watching the whole plot unfold in real time. To see that plot clearly, EDR constantly monitors 4 key vectors. First up, process behavior. This is watching who launched what and identifying abnormal parent processes. Second, file operations. So if a program suddenly starts encrypting, renaming, and reading files at incredibly high speeds, well, EDR knows that's classic ransomware behavior. Third, and honestly this is absolutely crucial, memory behavior. Modern hackers love using fileless attacks, where the malicious code never even touches the hard drive. Zero footprint. It executes entirely in memory using advanced techniques like process hollowing or reflective DLL injection. And finally, it monitors network connections, watching for those subtle, sneaky DNS queries calling back home to external command and control servers. By keeping an eye on these 4 vectors, EDR catches the invisible threats that would otherwise completely cripple a business. But here is the real game changer. EDR doesn't just sit back with a notepad and take notes. Remember, the R in EDR stands for response. When it spots that malicious behavior chain, it fights back. And often it does this entirely on its own. It can automatically kill the malicious process right in its tracks.
It can immediately isolate the host, literally ripping the compromised machine off the corporate network so the infection can't spread laterally. It quarantines the offending files, and incredibly, some of the most advanced EDRs can even roll back file changes. They can literally recover the pre-encrypted versions of your data to undo ransomware damage the exact moment it starts. How cool is that? Now, as amazing as that sounds, EDR is not a magic bullet. And that brings us to the next phase of this massive arms race. Hundreds of thousands, even millions. That is the staggering number of security events and alerts a typical enterprise EDR system generates every single day. Just let that sink in for a second. Millions of alerts. This creates a massive, massive problem for security operations centers, commonly known as SOC. Alert fatigue. I mean, human analysts simply cannot read, process, and investigate millions of alerts fast enough to figure out which ones are actual real-world attacks and which ones are just false alarms. Honestly, no matter how much coffee they drink, it's just humanly impossible. And of course, knowing that defenders are completely overwhelmed, red teams and malicious hackers are actively fighting back to blind the EDR detective. This has escalated into intense kernel-level warfare. It is an absolute high-speed game of cat and mouse. Attackers are using tactics like patching event tracing for Windows or bypassing the anti-malware scan interface, specifically so the EDR just stops receiving logs altogether. They're using deep kernel exploits to hide their actions at the absolute lowest level of the operating system. They even employ sleep and jitter tactics, actually intentionally slowing down their attacks to lower the anomaly frequency and avoid triggering those behavioral alarms. And over in the Linux world, defenders are deploying eBPF for EDR, while attackers are actively writing custom rootkits specifically designed to fight eBPF. It's wild. So, because humans are quite literally drowning in this data, and hackers are getting stealthier by the minute, the whole paradigm just has to shift. The future of this arms race is undeniably AI versus AI. There's no way around it. EDR is evolving far beyond just basic endpoint protection. It's becoming an AI-driven security platform. When you integrate it with tools like SIEM, user behavior analytics, and SOAR, modern AI SOCs are basically taking the wheel. They automatically analyze the entire attack path, automatically quarantine network segments, and automatically repair the damage. They are fighting off these attacks at machine speed without ever needing a human to click approve. Which brings us to our final thought for today. The reality of modern cybersecurity is harsh, but it's pretty simple. Your enterprise cannot remain unbreached forever. Eventually, someone is going to click a bad link. The perimeter will be pierced. So the real question, the one that actually defines whether a business survives a cyber attack or not, is this. When the enemy inevitably gets inside, can your detective find them early enough? Can your EDR trace the behavior, stop the intruder, and shut down the attack before a localized breach turns into a complete company-wide disaster? It is a truly fascinating arms race, and understanding exactly how these endpoint detectives work is absolutely your best tool for staying ahead of the curve. Keep exploring, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.